Tim, I have a question. So, like, you ever see those people in the grocery store and they're like trying to figure out, I'm knocking a Nuts Farms watermelon here. Coming up, we have finally a fresh edition of Acre Insights. The Modern Acre podcast explores the latest in business, investing, technology, and sustainability in agriculture, and we're your hosts, Tyler and Tim Nuss. If you want to dig deeper with Tim and I, the Modern Acre community, you got to check out our membership community, the Modern Acre Co-op. Tim and I recently started putting out weekly bonus content in the Modern Acre Co-op. So if you want a little bit more of Tim and I, how we're thinking about the industry, ideas that we have, interesting stuff we're coming across in our day-to-day, be sure to sign up for the Modern Acre Co-op. The Modern Acre podcast is presented by American Ag Credit. American Ag Credit is a proud member of the Farm Credit System, which was created more than 100 years ago with the sole purpose of serving the financial needs of farmers and ranchers. From small farms to the largest agribusiness enterprises, American Ag Credit understands agriculture and how to structure customized financial solutions. Just like many of the guests we have on the pod, American Ag Credit recognizes that the evolution of agriculture is inevitable and exciting. Their goal is to be at the forefront of this evolution, partnering with producers to grow their future in ways they haven't imagined yet. To learn more about American Ag Credit and to receive exclusive access to reports from Terrain, a research and insight service of American Ag Credit, visit agloan.com/terrain or check the link in our show notes.
Ty, I've been looking forward to putting out this Acre Insights. We're long overdue. Finally just get to let our hair down and just talk about what's on our mind. I'm excited for it.
It's about time. And now we're putting out this weekly content on the co-op feed, but we're still going to come back once a month or so on the Modern Acre public feed to just catch up and see what each other are thinking about, what we're excited about. So excited for this conversation. What do you got for us?
So Ty, one of the podcasts that you and I both listen to is called My First Million, and they talk about kind of getting business ideas and following trends through their wives. Of like their wives are always like the first to pick up like the next new it thing. So I got 3 things for you, Ty, that my wife Jenna's into and want to see if there's any options here, any business ideas with ag. So the first one is called the Mom Walk. Are you familiar with this, Ty?
I think so. Continue.
So it's like the pseudo franchise thing called the Mom Walk, where every city has like a host mom that will host a walk for local moms in the neighborhood. They'll do different events in the neighborhood and basically have sponsors help host the event. So there was just one that Jenna did that was like at a ballet studio that the ballet basically like brought in cupcakes and all the like stuff for the activity for the day. So I'm like thinking like, is there an idea here in agriculture where you have like every county has like San Joaquin Farm Walk or something where you have a host farm and bring in other farmers, have vendors, something like this. It's kind of like a grassroots type movement, but kind of interesting. Like she goes to it. I feel like every month there's like a Mom Walk event and there's always like different things that are going on, new sponsors. I think it could be cool for ag.
Are kids included in this, or is no kids?
Kids are included. Yeah, no dogs though, Ty. No dogs.
Okay, good to know. Okay, this is definitely interesting. I have a buddy, shout out John Hall. He's in the Modern Acre Co-op and actually did a lot of Modern Acre designs. He has a little startup brand, Tim, called First Light Surf Club. And it's kind of like a community engagement thing where the whole idea behind the brand is to wake up at first light before you go into your day jobs to go get a surf early in the morning. And he's built community around it where like once a month, what does he call it? Sip and Rip, where the group gets together, has coffee. Often it's sponsored by a local coffee shop or something, and they share a cup of coffee and then go out for their surf sesh really in the morning. And he's been really getting a lot of traffic. I know the Venn diagram of podcast listeners, surfers, and farmers is probably quite small. But, if any of our listeners are interested in surfing, we'll link it in the show notes. But I think there is something here, Tim. I think it's really fascinating of like getting folks together around agriculture, building community around it, and getting partners in the local community to help, sponsor the monthly meetup. I think it is really interesting. So Nuss Farms, just because we don't have anything else going on, Tim, you want to spin this up? I think we should leave this to one of our listeners.
Yeah, I think let's leave this to one of the listeners. I like the idea though, like building community. It just like seems like it's getting a lot of traction and just like happens organically where like all of a sudden there'd be like a new mom walk that pops up in the neighboring city because they get this like critical mass of like enough moms to start a new one. So hopefully someone in the audience picks that one up. Be excited to see if you build something on top of that. All right, Ty, the next one is called Buy Nothing. Are you familiar with this?
No.
Another kind of grassroots thing. There's like Facebook marketplaces in all these different cities about basically buy nothing. And the idea is like, rather than go to Goodwill and like just donate to somebody where you don't know where that product is going to go, donate it locally to someone in your community that wants it. So like Jenna is all over this. Like, I feel like every week there's just like random bags on her doorstep. She's going to pick up random kids' clothes and toys. You get a lot more satisfaction, Ty, when you're like giving something away where you know it's going to a good home, and it feels cool. Of like, we would rather than give this away or sell it, like let's just give it to somebody that needs it. And so like moms will post this, and there'll be like hundreds of comments of just like, I want these free Legos because my husband loves playing Legos with my daughter, whatever it is. And like, basically like whoever is giving away the product basically selects whatever, like tugs on their heartstrings of like who they want to give this away to. So my idea, Ty, is like, is there a marketplace like this in agriculture where like, you look on our farm, we have thousands of like random gizmos, gadgets, some we use, some of them we don't, rather than like dump those or just let them sit away and like go to waste, like create an economy for farmers to basically give away stuff for free. Like we saw this, or I saw this firsthand a couple of weeks ago. There was these discs that worked on our cucumber planter that a neighboring farmer had. Dad and Derek went to go look at them, and the farmer's like, you could just have them. And so it's like, cool. Like he feels good that he's helping us out. We feel awesome that we just got this thing that we really needed for free. I feel like that would happen a lot in agriculture. And that's the idea number 2 for you, Ty.
Okay, so let me get this straight. For agriculture, you want to create basically like a.
I don't know how you monetize this, Ty, but I just think it's another kind of like grassroots thing that builds community.
Okay, I like it. I when I think about all of the unused tools and equipment on the farm, it gets me pretty anxious. I'm kind of OCD about that. So getting rid of stuff to go be put to good use, that's a win-win if I've ever heard of one.
Thanks, Ty. So I'm 2 for 2 right now. Let's see if I can
bring it home.
Complete the trifecta with number 3. So number 3 is Goodreads. Are you familiar with this app?
Yes, this one I am.
So Goodreads is a reading app where you have friends and you can basically like put the books that you're reading.
Are you friends with me on Goodreads?
Dude, I don't think we're friends, but I'm smoking you this year in the book reading department.
You didn't add me as a friend?
I only got it because my wife, Jenna, wanted me to get up so she could be friends with me. Okay. But that's the extent of the friends that I have on Goodreads. But she's like super diligent about this of like, she tracks all the books she's reading, reviewing them. And you can follow like people that you respect of like, what are they reading? And so like, I think this could be interesting in ag tie where like, it's almost like Goodreads for farms of like, when you look to a farm that is in your area, that's like very well respected of like, what is this farm doing? And it could be like nutritional programs for certain crops of just kind of like lists and categories of other farms that you respect to kind of like follow and see what they're doing. I'm not quite sure what the business model is, Ty, but I just think it's like interesting that Jenna is like hooked on this of just like looking up to her peers of what they're reading, what's coming around the corner and getting insights there. So I thought that was another good one.
That is good. I'm a little hurt about the lack of being your friend on Goodreads, but yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I think that actually kind of leads me to my next topic, Tim, if I can segue here.
Okay.
So I made this point on a recent Modern Acre Co-op episode. Feel free to subscribe via the link in the show notes. But I made the point on one of our recent episodes about we need ag to be a little bit more fun. And I think that it's just right now is a hard time. There's layoffs happening at some of the big corporates. The ag tech investment space has been challenging, even though we've seen some funding rounds recently. And I think that in other sectors, there's just fun stuff happening. Like each of those 3 things you described, I would qualify under this. It's fun. It's a business that's
I'm fun guy.
Fun guy. It's a business. It's useful, but it's fun. And I think the fact that it's fun is one of the main reasons why each of those things is successful, right? It's building community. And I think we just need a little bit more of this in agriculture. And I think that's a way to get really the next generation bought in, to build community with other farmers, to enable something like you just talked about with farmers wanting to share more information. We need some more of this. The example I used in that co-op podcast, Tim, was of the Rejuvenation Olympics. It's this, we'll link it in the show notes. It's kind of this silly thing put on by Brian Johnson, who's the guy who wants to live forever. But basically, it's a leaderboard of who is aging the slowest possible based on a analysis that a third-party lab puts together, right? And I just thought it was fun and it's cool, and it builds and grows this business on the data analysis side. And we need more stuff like this in agriculture. We've seen, Tim, I think a few examples of people or companies doing fun things recently that I wanted to call out because this is happening in ag. One is John Deere and the chief tractor officer. I thought that was obviously like ultimately kind of a marketing stunt. But I think it was really well received. It was really fun. It was different. It got people talking. I think that was all really positive. Another thing that I thought is fun, Tim, is G. Bailey Stockdale over at Leaf, friend of the pod. They just recently raised some money, so congrats to the Leaf team. He's been putting out an LLM leaderboard focused specifically on agriculture and putting it out on LinkedIn. And I think it's super smart, super savvy, and it's fun. He basically takes Norm and ChatGPT and some of the other, Perplexity, some of these other LLMs, and puts it through kind of an agronomy test and see who scores the best. And I just thought that was super fun. And it's kind of this thing that he's doing. It's good content. It kind of drives people to him, and what he and Leaf are doing obviously is kind of a back end integration piece to this whole conversation of AI and agriculture. I think we just need more fun stuff. And I think those were two good examples I saw in ag recently.
This has been a really fun episode so far, Ty. Like, we're just keeping it very light. I like it.
All right, Tim, we got to move on from the fun stuff to the tough stuff. And that is farming. So I want to get an update from you. How are things going on the farm? We announced a week or two ago, we're delivering via picked to porch Nuss Farms watermelon locally to folks in the Lodi area. We'll link that again in the show notes if you want to get some fresh delivery from the farm, Nuss Farms watermelon, and you're in the Lodi area. Be sure to check that out. I think it's super, super cool. But tell us, Tim, how are things on the farm going this year?
Things overall are going really well, Ty. Like, we're in a much better spot than we were last year. Last year, everything was just super delayed. And so we were just kind of like playing catch up the entire season. This year, we've been much more on time in terms of planting and getting applications in consistently and getting into harvest now. So that's been good. We're pretty much planted out. We have one more field of cucumbers to go that we'll be planting here in the next week. And then we'll be basically focused on harvest from here on out until end of October, early November. So right now we're in basil, just had our second cutting. We're still into the watermelon deal, harvesting pretty much 5 days a week there. Getting into our banana peppers as well. We're harvesting more of those this week, and really just waiting on kind of like the later peppers, and then tomatoes we'll get into in middle of October, and the cucumbers are around that time as well. So it's been super busy, but not as stressful as last year. Like every day is stressful, like little things are happening, equipment's breaking down, but from like a macro perspective, feeling pretty good about the year. There's definitely some challenges in the farm economy that everyone's facing, where there's margin compression and commodity pricing sliding off a little bit. So we're optimistic we'll be able to hit our budget. There's still a little bit of variability with the heat that we had in July. Like, it's been so crazy hot where we had a lot of fruit that was planted, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen with yield potential there. So we're just kind of keeping the fingers crossed that we can hit the yield targets that we have for the season on some of our crops.
Tim, I have a question. So, like, you ever see those people in the grocery store and they're like trying to figure out, I'm knocking a Nuss Farms watermelon here. Do you know how to do this? Is my first question. Second, mom and dad dropped these off a few weeks ago. We're down to our last one. Is this still good? It's just been sitting in the garage. How resilient are these things? Two-part question.
Yeah, I'll answer in reverse order. I think you're still good, Ty. Like they've got some legs on them that you should be fine there. I'd probably pop it in the fridge before you cut it, just to get it nice and cool. In terms of picking the best watermelon, I feel like there's like 20 different things that people throw out. Like all the like watermelon people on LinkedIn every year are doing kind of like the knock test, the looking at the color and seeing the sunspot, like all of that. The one that I've kind of picked up on that I like, Ty, for picking a good watermelon is that if you pick up a watermelon and it feels unusually heavy for the size, so like if you pick it up and you're like expecting it to weigh like how you think it would weigh based on the size, but it feels heavier, that's a good watermelon. So that's kind of.
I mean, this feels like nothing. It's the opposite. I've been lifting recently.
You might have got a dud. I don't know.
Okay, have you seen that there's like a TikTok of a guy filming his wife knocking like excessively around a watermelon, and then they get home and the watermelon's bad?
I've not seen that one. That's pretty hilarious. Like if you like hover over the watermelons in Costco, it's like pretty funny of just like everyone's coming out of the woodwork with their like own unique thing they heard of like their hack to get the best perfect watermelon.
If someone buys a Nuts Farms watermelon, are you guaranteeing that it will be fresh?
I will guarantee freshness.
You'll guarantee it. That's
I will guarantee it.
That's a Tim Nuss guarantee. But I think that we could probably. I'm pretty sure we can commit to that. If you get a bad watermelon, you're in the Lodi area, Tim will personally drop off a replacement watermelon for you.
Yeah, I will drop off a replacement if you're in the Lodi area and you had a bad watermelon experience. I definitely want to make it right, so let me know.
The Tim Nuss guarantee.
It's pretty hilarious, Ty. Like I'll be like doing the farm tours, having people out. We'll like go to the watermelon field and be like, "Oh, let's snag you guys a watermelon." And like we'll go through and I'll be kind of like trying to find the best watermelons. And the foreman will like come over and just kind of like ignore like where I'm at. And he's like, "No, these are the good ones." He'll know where to go. So I always tell people the trick for finding the perfect watermelon is like follow the foreman and have him pick it for you.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
Good to hear about the farm, Tim. I think it's really fascinating. I think people miss it. I missed it for the longest time. Is we're still planting and it's August. And that is just so wild about our operation. Is it cucumbers? Because those are 60 days?
48 days.
48 days. So yeah, you plant from when you plant to when you harvest, 48 days is pretty wild. That our operation has got so many moving parts. It still kind of blows my mind that we have been harvesting, we are harvesting, but we're currently planting and we'll continue to harvest through the end of October is just pretty crazy. The amount of logistics involved, that's our brother Derek taking care of all of that and managing all that is pretty impressive.
Totally.
Tim, I want to get into the regenerative stuff of how we're thinking about regenerative currently. I think that I saw recently there's been a lot going on with California and definitions around regenerative agriculture. And there's been focus groups talking to growers and different industry stakeholders around how regenerative should be defined in California. And there's what seems to be kind of like the process driven folks and the outcome based folks. So process being you follow these principles and regardless of outcome, and then the outcome based folks saying it doesn't really matter how you get to the end goal if you're getting to better outcomes in terms of soil health, nutrient density, et cetera. And there seems like there's a lot of back and forth. There's kind of like a vying for the certifications of, is regen in California going to be organic regenerative, right? Regenerative organic. And I find it all pretty fascinating. Have you been kind of keeping up to date with the California stuff?
Yeah, not super close. I've been the article that you sent me recently, I followed. It's like pretty interesting. I feel like the people that care most about defining regenerative are like not actual regenerative farmers. It's just like people trying to capitalize on like the opportunity of having a certification. Like I feel like most farmers that are like moving in this direction, like aren't really like stressed out about like how it's defined. It's like I can find better tools in my operation that work, that provide better outcomes, that I can reduce inputs. I can have these other positive benefits by adopting regenerative principles. Like that's the win for the grower versus like trying to fit in a specific box and like have this certification. So it's just kind of interesting to see like how much noise and attention is made around defining it, when I think most growers probably don't care.
I agree with you. I also do think it's like chicken or the egg, because right now there's no benefit to us imminently for certifying ourselves or following like a XYZ process for regenerative. Really, what's most beneficial to us right now is thoughtfully experimenting with regenerative, right? Of like, where can we introduce practices that we can see a clear ROI? And if there were market opportunities, Tim, of, hey, you can see a premium on a crop or a product or something, and we had a clear line of sight to that, I think that would change how we think about it. So it's kind of this chicken or egg battle, because I do think that there needs to be some definition around it for the consumer if they're trying to buy a premium product. But if there's no definition, I see that challenge. But there's this chicken or the egg, because farmers aren't incentivized to do more than what you said. Is kind of like you're not stressed about it because there's nothing, you're not benefiting from anything other than clear ROI on case by case basis.
Yeah, it's a tough deal. Like, we don't want it to fall into like organic and be organic 2.0 of like we've seen that not pan out, where it just becomes a race to the bottom at retail, and then you'll just have your certified regenerative products come from Mexico and other areas and not work for every farm, like what we saw for organic on our operation.
My opinion is that I don't know if regenerative is going to follow organic. I think regenerative is just going to be agriculture.
Yeah.
I just think that regenerative in many cases presents an opportunity to farm better that is mutually beneficial. It's beneficial for the farmer, and it's beneficial for the environment and the consumer. And I think it's going to be a kind of a market-based approach. We look at it with biologicals. Everyone is aligned to this because obviously there's snake oil in the space. Obviously there's efficacy concerns, but you have that on the chemical side as well. So you have all these alignment of incentives of, hey, can we use bio-based or living organism products to, in many cases, achieve a better outcome from a soil and crop health or biocontrol basis? That's why there's so much momentum and buzz around biologicals, I think, is because you have this alignment. And I think, farmers that use biologicals in the future, are they going to be called regenerative farmers, or are they just going to be called farmers? I think they might just be called farmers because they're using a better product for them and for the environment. And this is just like how the market works. And so maybe that's a hot take, Tim. I mean, it's different than maybe my opinions have changed on this subject, but I think that regenerative is just going to be agriculture in the future.
Yep. And I'm moving in that direction as well, Ty. Like, I think there was a lot of promise early on of like this totally different category, but it's just like at the end of the day, it's like finding better tools, better processes to your farming operation and farming more efficiently. And that like makes better, more resilient farms. And that's regenerative. And that could be totally fine. Like, we don't need to make this super small tent that only a small percentage of farmers can be organic and regenerative and like sell super high end produce to the 1% of the population that can afford that, versus like, let's put all these tools in most farmers in all farmers' pockets and just farm better.
Totally. Okay. Well, good stuff, Tim. I love that. We went more than our 10-minute co-op podcast versions. If you guys want to hear more from Tim and I, what we're into, what we're reading, get the latest on our book challenge that Tim is currently smoking me in, check out the Modern Acre Co-op. We're putting out weekly bonus content. So if you want more podcast content, I've been finding myself, Tim, listening to the same amount of podcasts, but fewer podcasts. And I want more of the podcasts that I enjoy. So if you enjoy this podcast and you want more content, sign up. It's the cost of a cold brew a month. And we'd really appreciate you supporting the show in that way. If you check out the co-op, you can see some of our recent episodes that we've put out, see if any catch your eye. Try us out for a month. And if it's not for you, you can cancel. And we also have bi-monthly member calls. So getting the community together to learn about how each other are thinking about innovation and building businesses in agriculture. So that sounds like you. Sign up. We appreciate you guys listening, tuning in. Nest Farms Watermelon, if you're in the Lodi area. Sign up for the co-op. We'll be back soon with another great episode.